Oh, I guess we started. Got it. Thanks, Hobbit, for letting me know I was starting. Okay, so I'm gonna share my screen and get us set up on the presentation. Okay. Oh, I can't see you all because it's all on. There we go. If anyone else shows up, Hobbit, you're going to have to take charge of that. Are we all ready? Set to go? Yes, thumbs up.
Yes.
Okay, how to thrive as a sensitive soul in a post-pandemic world. In this workshop, I'm going to cover a bunch of different aspects. First, we're going to talk about what it really means to be a sensitive soul and the different layers of sensitivity that we deal with. Then we'll talk about what it means to be a sensitive soul in a post-pandemic world and what's going on in terms of energies in the world these days as we're coming out of the COVID pandemic. Then we'll talk about how to balance mind, body, spirit in 3 simple steps. So how to manage your own sensitivities as you deal with all the things coming up in this post-pandemic world. And I'll give you first aid, so 3 short-term solutions as to how to manage your sensitivities. Hobbit, can you turn down your volume? I hear myself talking. Did you hear me? I can't even see the chat, so he must have done it because now I can't hear myself talking in echo. So in that first aid, you will learn a simple exercise for how to calm your overthinking in the time that it happens, how to soothe any overstimulation that happens in the moment that it comes up, and how to cleanse yourself of toxic energies when you're surrounded by the energy vampires and toxic things going on in your world. Then we'll talk about how deep healing how you can heal yourself on a deep level as a sensitive soul. And that's long-term solutions so that you can be the rainbow in someone else's cloud, so that you can turn that sensitivity of yours into a superpower. But I want to be clear, I will not teach you a magic cure or a quick fix or a miracle medicine to fix what's wrong. The transformation requires commitment and it's daily effort. And it is easier than you think, but you have to be consistent and disciplined in the practice. I will teach you a practice, but I won't teach you a 30-minute tush to the cush meditation or pretzel yoga positions practice. I really like to explain things in very basic scientific terms that you can break down into everyday life. And then I won't teach you anything you don't already know inside yourself. All the solutions are inside you, and I'll help you find them. So to start, I introduce myself a little bit, and this is interesting because all of you here that I'm talking to know me really well. So I'm also saying this for all the people who will be getting the replay tomorrow, but it's nice to see all of you. Like Joe is my neighbor from where I used to live. Cheyenne, you're in my mastermind program. Mary Jo, you've known me since I was like a high school kid. And Diana just finished my 6-month mentorship program. So she really has a great experience of what this is all about. So I like to describe myself as a sensitive soul. I have, from the mind, body, spirit perspective. From the mind perspective, I have a very overactive, very busy, creative mind. I'm an introvert, and my brain works in very creative, metaphoric, symbolic, putting everything together in multiple pieces. It's constantly churning and spinning, not in A, B, C, D, but in all kinds of spinning loop-de-loops. And my body, as a result of my mind being like that, my body is also very sensitive. I hear things better. I feel things more intensely. I see things that other people can't see, such as your chakras. And from a spiritual perspective, I am an empath. I really understand and know the energies of the universe, and not just what other people are feeling, but I can feel the energies of what's happening in a space or what's happening in a culture or in a climate. So as a spiritual mentor, I have all this experience. I have a master's degree in teaching and a bachelor's of arts in creative writing and literary studies. So my background in education is very much about how the brain works, and how the brain works from a creative writing and language and literature and linguistics perspective. I love to study words and language. As a result, I've been teaching for 30 plus years. I taught my very first student teaching class when I was 18 years old. And over all those years, I think this is actually bigger now. I think I've been teaching for 30 years, so I'm up to 30,000 hours of teaching and over 300,000 students, if you average 10 students per class. I taught high school public education for 10 years. I've been in the health and wellness industry for over 15 years, and I've worked with intensive study with yoga masters for over 10 years. A shamanism. I studied and became an elder in an African tribe. I'm a Reiki master. I'm a chakra expert. I have 7 books on Amazon, and I've been traveling and teaching since 2008. But I also love anatomy and physiology. I've really studied the human body and how it works in terms of posture and mechanics, as well as the human mind and how it works in mindfulness and meditation, and all levels of spirituality, not just one religion, many religions, many traditions, many cultures. I also really have gotten into intuitive development, shamanism, chakras, and yoga over the last 20 years. And I just love to be a geek. I read neuroscience and brain training books for fun. I study how words and language come together, where they came from. And I've spent years really analyzing my diet and nutrition, as well as spirit and totem animals. Did I leave anything out? Anything there that you guys thought that I haven't shared yet? Are we still only at 6 people? Habit, give me a wave here if there's more. Yes? Okay. Well, I'm glad you guys made it. So what does it mean to be a sensitive soul? A sensitive soul is so much more than just empath. What it means to me, sensitive souls, introverts, HSP, and empaths. Oops, that should be HSP, not HPS. Oh my. Those of the world who are mindful introverts, not just people who need that silent, quiet time to process your information, but people whose brains, there have been scientific studies out there that introverts have brains that work in much more complex systems. Our brains go through those twists and loop-de-loops and all those wrinkles inside our skulls a lot more than extroverts. Extroverts are very linear in their thinking, where introverts are very loop-de-loop in their thinking. That's about 50% of the population. That's how the mind works for an introvert. Then all introverts are also HSPs. HSP means highly sensitive person. About 20% of the population, of them all are introverts. 20% of highly sensitive people are in the population. And that 20% means that your nerves are much more sensitive than the average person. So when you smell things, or you taste things, or you touch things, or you hear things, or so forth, you receive that information on a much more sensitive nerve pathway level. That's what an HSP is. And it doesn't have to be all the senses. It could be just one. So for example, when I open the fridge, I can smell something that's about to go bad. It's not quite going bad, but I can smell it right before it's going to go bad, because my sense of smell is more tender, more sensitive than the average person. Or as another example, when I'm wearing clothes and they don't fit just right, or if there's tag or a scratch, it really irritates my skin and it irritates the way I feel. That's highly sensitive. Now, it doesn't have to be all of your senses. It could be just one to be a highly sensitive person. In addition to highly sensitive people, that's 20% of the population, 5% of the population are empaths. So if an introvert is someone whose brain works in crazy loop-de-loops, and a HSP is also an introvert, and an HSP, their nerves and their senses work in unique, sensitive ways. An empath is one whose hormones are much more reactive. Your hormones, therefore, your moods and your body functionings, like your digestive system or your respiratory system or your heart rate, those kinds of things, they're all much more triggered. They respond faster. They respond more precisely and more quickly to stimuli coming in. And what that means is you're an empath. An empath means that you feel and sense and smell, because you're an HSP, different things coming in, and then your body responds really, really quickly and really, really fast. So about 5% of the population are empaths. And as I'm looking at the group of people in here, I would argue that all of you are on the empath level. You're all people whose brains are highly creative. Your body's, at least one of those senses is heightened, and you have that quick trigger, that quick responsiveness to your hormones. And the hormones could be that your body responds on a physiological level, and it can also mean that your emotions respond, that you feel things in emotional ways much more heightened and much more quickly than the average population. The next level is heart. And this is one I haven't talked about in classes before. I think about 0.5% of the population are heart sensitive. And what I mean by that is not heart like your beating heart, but more heart like your soul, like a sensitive soul. And that means that you're highly functioning and you're spiritually minded. I recently did this research study, I think it was maybe 2 months ago. I did this heart research study on empaths and spirituality. And I interviewed about 50 people, and I asked them about their relationship with spirituality and their relationship to being an empath. And that being more the traditional definition of empath, that empaths are people who feel other people's emotions. And what I discovered is there was a smaller population of empaths who are highly spiritual and are highly functioning. And I'll talk about that in a little bit more, but highly functioning means you are really good at managing everything in your world. So let me take that a step deeper. From a mind perspective, being an introvert, you have an awesome brain. It thinks creatively, it thinks logically, it analyzes everything from every angle possible and multiple perspectives, and it goes deep into symbolism, metaphor, analysis, and so forth. Sensitive souls are often shy and quiet and socially awkward, bullied and misunderstood, especially as children. They grow out of it as adults, but as young children, we tend to be shy and quiet and more awkward because we were weird, different, because our brains and our inner imaginations worked differently than other kids. And we had more fun in our inner imaginations than we did playing with kids oftentimes. That's how the introverted mind works. As a result of being an introverted mind whose brains spin in all these different circles, we do have a tendency to overthink, second guess, get perfectionistic, become worrywarts, and spin ourselves in circles with that inner questioning critic voice inside ourselves. As an introvert, your mind is both your gift and your curse. It gives you this very rich and full inner imaginative mind, and it can cripple you with overload and overwhelm because you're thinking too much if you let it. That's about 50% of the population. From a body perspective, as an HSP, one or more of your 5 senses works on overdrive. So you smell things before they go rotten. Certain sounds are triggered into some sort of anxiety. If clothes don't fit right, they kind of drive you a little insane. There's always that little itch in your senses that isn't quite comfortable. As a result, you might tend to avoid doctors and pharmaceutical medications because the side effects of those Western medicines are worse than the issues that they're meant to treat, because your body responds so quickly and so sensitively. If there's going to be a side effect, you're going to feel it in bigger ways as an HSP. Again, that's about 20% of the population. Your sensitivity as an HSP is both your gift and your curse. It helps you to understand other people. It helps you to have a fuller and richer experience of life. And because you're always having those itches of senses not being completely comfortable, they can trigger you into things like anger, anxiety, guilt, temper tantrums, and wanting to self-isolate. From a spiritual perspective, as an empath, your hormones trigger faster and they trigger stronger. So you feel the moods and emotions of other people, of places, and even things. Like you can touch something and feel its energy. And as a result, you also have this deep need to fix it if it's not in balance, or to create that balance. You can't tell the difference between your own feelings and those of others because your body responds the same way to either your own feelings and others. You have that quick trigger. You feel something and you want to go balance it. You want to trigger some sort of evening, some sort of calm to it. That's kind of your life purpose as an empath. You create the calm, you create the balance. Your empath skills are your gift and your curse. It helps you serve others, it helps you understand others, and it helps you make the world a better place. But it can also trigger you into anxiety, depression, and massive mood swings. Many of you have already heard me say these things before, but this is the concept. You're an introvert, your brain works different, 50%. You're an HSP, your body works different, that's 20%. You're an empath, your moods and hormones work different, that's 5%. And then you get, well, hello, Tosha. Then you get to the sensitive soul of the heart. You are highly functional in all aspects of your life. You're uber efficient, you're highly capable, you're very observant, you're hyper aware, and you're very quick to respond. You are also deeply spiritual. Very often, as a result of that, all those things, you left your religious upbringing and found your own spirituality sometime later in life. As a result of being highly functional, you take care of others more than you take care of yourself, because you can. You manage, you're able to manage deeper, harder, heavier, and more intense things than most people can. So you do. When you recognize that someone's in pain, you step up. They might not even know they're in pain. You step up and you take care of it because you know what it feels like to have that kind of pain. And you can manage it and you can process it and you can calm it before they even start to trigger too strongly through it. You don't ask for help. You have a hard time trusting, depending on, or relying on other people because they usually let you down because they're not as quick to respond. They're not as sharp. They're not as aware, and they're not as functional. Or getting help is more work than doing it yourself. You ask them to do something and it takes them longer to figure it out, or it takes you longer to explain to them how to do it that you could have done it yourself better first. So you just do it. And that makes you highly functional, but also not much of a receiver. Your sensitive soul heart skills are both your gift and your curse. You live this very rich, deep, and fulfilling and functional life, but sometimes you feel lonely and unsupported because you hold such a heavy load and not in a way that other people can understand. Oops, there we go. I'm going to stop the share and ask you for feedback. How are you doing? Thoughts going on? Any insights on what I've shared so far?
Well, a couple of the points definitely hit home.
You want to share which ones?
I guess I pick up on other people's feelings, and it's like the other part where you talk about Western medicine. Yes, I react to don't give me a prescription. I'll go to physical therapy first or something rather than taking some sort of drug, because inevitably I react to it.
It causes more harm than it does what it's meant to do good. Yes. I've been pharmaceutical free for 20 years because of that exact reason. Anyone else?
I'm with Mary. I also avoid Western medicine. I go to a Chinese medicine doctor, which is a lot more helpful. And I, for a problem I've had for over 2 years, physical therapy helped me in just a few weeks versus, traditional Western medicine. And also I just got done having a little mini cry. It was a good release because the other trigger was being so overly sensitive as a child. I was bullied and misunderstood a lot. So that really hit home.
And part of that is when we are treated like that as a child, we overcompensate and we become much more functional as adults. And we get to the point where we don't trust people as children because they weren't safe or healthy for us. So then we figured out how to do everything ourselves. And being so sensitive, we then recognize when other people are feeling what we felt. We already know what that's like, so we don't want other people to feel that way. It's very common. Anyone else? Yeah.
I reflect back, one time my mother said, well, you're just too sensitive.
Very common phrase for us highly sensitive souls. And as I look at all four of you, and Habit included, we're all very efficient, very effective, very good at what we do. We are people that take care of business and oftentimes don't ask other people for help. We're the ones that everyone's needing and leaning on us because we're so good and so efficient and so highly functional because we managed our sensitivities over time. So let's talk about what that means in terms of a post-pandemic world. What it means to live as a sensitive soul in a post-pandemic world. But to me, the pandemic, the last 2.5 years, has been a spiritual upgrade. So let's look at that as a symbol or as a metaphor, because our twisty-turny brains think that way, just like a computer upgrade. When we need to update our computer software system, what do we go through? Well, the first thing you have to do when you update a computer software system is this: you say hit update, and the computer says shut down all your open applications. You have to shut everything down. That's what happened back in March of 2022. All the open applications, everything in the outside world had to shut down. The next step is to restart the computer. So we tried to restart the system after several months, after everything closed down, and it took a while for everything to shut off and for the computer to shut off, for the world to close up. And once it did close up, we stayed there for a while. It doesn't start right back up automatically really fast. It stays quiet for a little while. And then when it does restart, it's slow to churn. It's slow to come back up. That's exactly what happened to our spirits, our systems as well. Then once it does upstart, it doesn't go right back to functioning. It has to install all the upgrades. So you get the spinning wheel, the rainbow spinning wheel on the computer that says you can't do anything because you have to let things upgrade. Well, what happened in our pandemic is that a lot of people interrupted that spinning wheel. Instead of letting the computer stay shut down, we tried to get back into the real world faster. Well, that just made things slow down even more, and it came back and we had to restart again. All those start and stops interrupted the process. If you had COVID itself as an actual illness and you got sick and you didn't give your body time to really fully heal, then you ended up feeling sicker longer. At least that's what happened to me, because we are highly functional people. We want to do everything. I got COVID. It lasted 6 weeks rather than 6 days or 2 weeks. It lasted those 6 weeks because I kept trying to get started sooner and faster. And then as soon as I interrupted the computer processing, and then my system would shut down again. So I'd have to go back to resting, sleeping, letting the upgrade happen. There's a process in the computer process that when you do a restart and an upgrade or an update, it's called defragmentation. And what defragmentation is, it's a cleaning out of the hard drive. It's taking everything out and putting it back into a much more organized and systematic manner. In a way, many of us did that when we went into lockdown, and we all ended up like decluttering our homes because we were there all the time. We spent the time cleaning out our homes and deciding, I want this, I don't want that. Reorganizing all of our systems on the physical level actually turned into a defragmentation and a reorganization of our emotional, spiritual level and our energetic systems as well. And then finally, we had to reinstall and upgrade all the outdated softwares. So we would get back online. We were back out in the everyday world, but the everyday world doesn't function the same. And sometimes old software programs don't function anymore when you use the new upgrade on your computer. So you have to upgrade the new software too. So that's what we've been going through probably about the last year in the COVID, is that we've been reinstalling and updating outdated softwares within our systems and trying to figure out how to function with the new upgrade. As a result, there's also this learning curve. You know, you update your computer and then you open it up and things are all different. And then you have to actually train your brain as to how to function with the new computer. The same things happen with our spirituality and our energies. Things have really shifted as to how we respond to people, as to how we engage in the outside world, how we feel on our inside levels. All of that happen on a spiritual level, on an emotional level, on an energetic level. So for us sensitive souls, what does that mean? Well, during the pandemic, we had that opportunity without the world knocking at us to actually turn within and go quiet. We were allowed uninterrupted introvert time. That means that we were able to go actually take the time to let our brains process at a slower speed and actually get all those thoughts more organized. It was really good for us, and our brains then got to understand things on a deeper, more emotional, more spiritual level. As a result of that, both consciously and subconsciously and unconsciously, we're able to reflect and respond to what really matters in our lives. We were able to take the quiet time to clean out the clutter of all the other stuff and get to the core of what's really true and what's really right for us in our lives. And because there was less external stimulation, a lot less stuff going on, we could actually then process what really matters. And in our hearts, in our cores, in the way we respond to things, we are then coming out of the pandemic saying, we know what's most important to us and we know how to respond in the world. And we're not being influenced by external people anymore. That means that we are accessing our internal wisdom. We are accessing our intuition better. And as sensitive souls, that's beautiful. We love it. But at the same time, we don't even know it's our intuition. We just feel it. And as a result of that, our already sensitive bodies have gotten more sensitive, which makes it harder to go back out in the outside world, because the way we were before was already more sensitive than the average person. And now it's even more sensitive than it was before. Like, my sense of sound was really sensitive before, and now I can barely tolerate being out in public sometimes because the sounds are so intense to me. Those things have happened with our HSPs. What does that mean in our post-pandemic world? Well, it's not just us. Everyone in the world has gone through this upgrade. So everyone is more sensitive. We're used to sensitivity and we know what it feels like and we know what to do with it. but everyone else in the world doesn't know what to do with it. They're having all these senses and they're having all these feelings and they're having all these emotions, and they've never felt things at this intensity before. So it's coming out in a lot of chaos. There's a lot more crime, there's a lot more passion, there's a lot more road rage, there's a lot more intensity of emotion everywhere. The whole world is more sensitive. Where we used to be is where average extroverts are now, and we are even more sensitive. So there are many more moods and emotions out there, and they're higher intensity, and we're feeling it. It's not just us, it's everyone. And because so much of the world interrupted that process, glitched out the upgrade as it was happening, there are many people still in that glitching process. They're still trying to reboot their systems and get into a new rhythm and a new pattern, and they're still glitching out. They're still having symptoms, not just of COVID on a physical level, but also on the mental, emotional level and the energetic level. That makes reintegration into a new normal that much more difficult, because many people in the population are having these sensitivities they don't know what to do with. We are there to try to manage it, but we're already more stimulated, and people are glitching out and not catching up to the world as it's processing. And there's this whole new world out there. It's very different. So this enhancement of the sensitivities is what everyone's dealing with. So my question to you is, as a result of this system upgrade, what symptoms, both good and bad, what's pleasurable and what's uncomfortable, have you experienced as a result of the system upgrade of the pandemic? Anyone want to share?
Well, I'm not quite certain what my new normal is.
That's a great symptom to share. We
Because
don't know what's going on.
no, and it's like, how much do I go back out? Have I changed in the process? And so it's like unclear.
So uncertainty is one of your, and
Yes.
not being able to understand it all.
Right.
Cheyenne, did you have one?
Yeah, something that's, I guess, unpleasurable is very sensitive to like the mall. Like I can't be, well, I've tried and I like really get very overwhelmed whenever I'm inside of a mall, or just like a lot of like people and just like crowds like that. And I used to be sensitive, but just it's really a lot more now. And
Exactly.
I would say something that's been pleasurable is that my gut kind of speaks to me, in my intuition speaks to me by my left side kind of twitches. So the left side of my body will twitch if it's a yes, and the right side of my body will twitch if it's a no. So I've been able to really use my intuition to really like confirm things in like the present time and stuff like that. So I'll just be like, hey, is this? They're like, yes. And then the right side will twitch, or no, the left side, and stuff. So that's been very cool. And I've used that a lot.
That's awesome. And I've heard that a lot with different clients and people I've been working with, where they're much more in tune with their bodies and listening and paying attention and being able to use that information in a better process. So there are pleasurable side effects as well as all these discomforts. Most of the discomforts come from going out into the outside world. And most of the pleasures for us are about being in the inside world. Being in our own worlds is much more comfortable. And we're understanding ourselves better. So it is, the whole pandemic was this opportunity to turn within and to get clear with ourselves. But then how do we go out to the outside world where there's more people who are not clear with themselves? Anyone else want to share? I always give a little bit more silence just to get that teacher space. Okay, here we go. Back to the presentation. So what is this all in related to the chakras? The chakras, my definition of the chakras is that they are an energetic, neurological wiring system of our life experiences and the collective wisdom of our entire ancestry. They're not just these energetic balls that run through our system, but they are actually our nerves and how our nerves are processing the information within our world. So the chakras, because they're connected to our nerves and because we are highly sensitive and because they're connected to our brains and our brains are highly active, the chakras inform and work with every action, every behavior, and every decision of our lives. So when we work with the chakras, we can heal deep traumas and change lifelong patterns and behaviors. In terms of the pandemic, though, what it means is that our chakra system with the pandemic experienced a massive earthquake. It's like everything within our system got completely shorted out because we had to shut down. It was a turning off of our system, reorganizing it, defragging it to turn it back on. And that turn back on, everything's different. And we're forced into this integration and learning curve. Not just about what's happened in the outside world, that everything shut down and now we have to reorganize how we function in life, but it's also within our internal souls and our internal selves. Our understanding of who we are, where we came from, all the things of our past, all the histories of what we've been through in our life, our perspectives on that is all different because our chakras got a reboot. It's an electrical system reset that we just went through. And now we're trying to figure out, well, how does this reset work? When you look at the 7 main chakras, each of the chakras has a different aspect of life that it governs. And so if you look at all the energetic electrical systems going on, safety and freedom, holding on and letting go, power and surrender, giving and receiving, truth and lies, intuition and reason, science and spirit. This electrical system reset, this spiritual upgrade has impacted every single aspect of our lives. Our internal lives, our external lives, our personal powers, our deep-seated belief systems, everything has been impacted by the chakras. The chakras have been impacted by the pandemic and it shifted everything. And now we don't even know what's right or wrong, up or down, left or right, because it's all different. There is good news with this. Lots of good news, very similar to what Cheyenne was saying, that after this reset, there are things that are happening. We are recognizing things in different ways. I promise you, deep spiritual belief, also law of physics, everything will eventually balance out. Nature always seeks its balance. It always does. So really what was happening is that we were getting so overwhelmed with the changes that was going on in the world that we had to shut down to upgrade to a different software system so that we can function. And it's a big process, but eventually, just like when you upgrade your computer, it takes a while to learn how systems work. It takes a while to figure out which software applications you need to upgrade and which ones you need to throw out. But eventually you get to the system where, oh yeah, I'm using this new computer system and I really like it. And you find new things that were installed in the applications and in how things function, and they work even better. Nature always seeks balance. You will always get to that more level of comfort. It's coming, I promise. Even if you do nothing, eventually you'll figure it out. Second thing that's good news is, even though it may feel like this ugly process, healing sometimes is an ugly process. But the scar tissue that you develop in the healing process is stronger tissue. You are creating patches and you are creating systems through this whole upgrade that are making you stronger, that are making you better at what you do. Just like Cheyenne was saying, she's better able to understand her body and how it's talking to her. There will be all kinds of those examples as you work through the process of upgrading. And finally, us sensitive souls, it's like we're leading the way, because we came into the pandemic already understanding sensitivity. Others, that 50% that are extroverts and the people who don't have the sensitivity that we do, they don't understand how to articulate, how to navigate, and how to manage all these emotions. We do. Yes, it's more sensitive than usual, but we know how to process that. We've already gone through that many times in our lives, and we have that experience. So we're actually being called to order. We're being called to the world to say, hey, we know what this is all about, and we know how to make it work better. We know how to process and work with emotions, and it's our job to start teaching and helping others process and work with their emotions. How does this work as an integration? From your mind perspective, so if you need to integrate, what do you need to do to help yourself feel better and function better with this new upgrade? First, you need to train your brain. That means doing mindfulness and neuroscience exercises so that you can quiet that monkey mind chatter, which you've done in your past. You've worked with other ways to do it, so you can trust your inner self and make those clear and confident decisions. Follow your curiosity, chase your imagination with that new renewed sense of wonder, and go into a new state of being. I actually personally believe that the prior way of doing things was, let's sit down and meditate. And that 30 minutes, 15 minutes of meditation every morning and every night will help us function throughout the day. I think what's happening now with the COVID shift is that we're going away from separate meditation practices, and we're being forced to integrate meditation into our everyday life. So yes, we can still do the meditation before and after, or in the beginning of the day or the end of the day, or at a set specific extra time. But what would happen if you took those practices and interspersed them into your everyday life? Instead of 15 minutes, you take 30 seconds, 30 times a day. Your brain will work better. From a body perspective, that hypersensitive body and nerves, we are being called as HSPs to learn to soothe and balance our nerves and hormones more naturally, so that we can feel that internal peace and calm even during times of outer chaos, so that you can support others and keep healthy boundaries for yourself and so forth. Part of that, yes, as us empaths have been avoiding Western medicine and using more holistic medicine. But what if you take it a step further and stop depending on outside sources? Stop asking for someone else to fix you, and you figure it out for yourself in the moment while you're dealing with it. So someone asked me in a class on Saturday, he was asking about crystals and essential oils and which ones you can use to balance which chakras. And I said, what happens if you don't have that crystal? What happens if you can't access that essential oil? You don't want to be screwed if you don't have that external source. I think from an energetic level, we're being called to figure out how to work with our body with what it is right now, how to soothe ourselves inside ourselves. And the way to do that is through that mindfulness brain training, and to intersperse using your body in a very specific way throughout your everyday life. And then lastly, the spirit. I think we're being called to integrate spirituality into our everyday life. Instead of just, I go to church on Sundays or I go to my yoga class to get in tune, it's about every single action of your life being your spiritual practice, so that you're trusting your intuition every single moment, feeling centered and grounded every single moment, surrendering to the divine order of the universe every single moment. When things aren't going the way you think they should, you surrender to it and you find that spirituality right here, right now, all the time. I think we're being called away from looking for external sources to take care of us and doing things on the big picture here. Meditate for 30 minutes, go to my yoga class, go to church, pray for 40 minutes, to how do we make this part of every day, every single moment life? That's the spiritual soul upgrade that we're dealing with as highly sensitive, heart level empaths. How do you do that? Let me take a little breather and see how you're doing. Oh, we got someone else on here too. So how are we doing? Any thoughts, any questions? Is he
Yes.
taking notes?
So I definitely agree with you with as more people are just coming on board in terms of just being more sensitive. My really good friend, she called me the other day and she was like, I just don't understand why I'm so sensitive to my cousin that's staying with her, because like she felt like she wasn't really bothered by like people in that sense prior to, but then now she was noticing that she was just more sensitive to just other people's energy and stuff, and she was really like confused, and she asked me like things that she could do to kind of help soothe. So yes, I definitely agree with you there.
We sensitive souls are being called to help the average population because they're dealing with emotions that they haven't ever understood before. And we've been dealing with that our whole lives. At the same time, we're feeling our sensitivity heightened. And I think our jobs as we're feeling our sensitivities heightened is that we need to take the practices we used to do and make them every single day, every single moment. Integrate them into everything we do. Anyone else? Thoughts, feelings, insights? Well, then the question becomes, how do we do that? How do we integrate it into our everyday, every moment? How do we treat these things as they're coming up? How to balance your introverted mind, your highly sensitive body, and your empathic spirit in the moment that they happen, so that you're doing these things in 30 seconds rather than 30 minutes of yoga or meditation. The way to do that is what I call the Mosey method, or mindful moments. It's very simple, actually. It's almost so simple, it's scary. You set a mindful intention, a thought. You add that thought to a very specific body action, something you do. So you take that thought, it's not just in your head, but you run it down your nerves into your body, and you do something physically with your body that matches that thought, that intention. And then you link that mind and that body with breath, with spirit. So you take a thought, you link it to a body action, and you take a breath and you move it with the breath. The trick is you have to do this many, many, many times. So let's break each of those down in more specificity, because I think there's some confusion as to how, I don't know about confusion, I just think the upgrade has changed how we should be using our brains. Affirmations, mantras, and sound vibrations are very, very powerful. And people have been teaching positive affirmations for years and mantra repetition for decades, for centuries. These things do change energy, but if we don't do them very, very specifically, they don't have as much power, and we need them to have more power now. So what we need to do is be very careful and very precise in how we form our affirmations. And the way to do that is my passion. It's linking sound in poetry to affirmations. And the reason I put Maya Angelou up here is because she was a master at it. This woman in her childhood went silent for years. So she absorbed and studied and analyzed sound and language by not using it, so that when she did eventually use it, it was impactful, it was powerful. And this particular affirmation, I'm a woman, phenomenal woman, that's me. She used not only what she's saying and the meaning of it, but the sounds emphasize that meaning. And what I mean by that is phenomenal woman repeats the F, M, and N sounds of feminine. She's not saying the word feminine, but she's amplifying it. She's elevating it to phenomenal, feminine, phenomenal woman. And she's tricking the brain into a new phrase. rather than feminine because that was connotated as weak. She took it and elevated it and amplified it and strengthened it with the word phenomenal. If we're much more precise in how we form our affirmations, we're much more clear with how we form our affirmations, and those affirmations have more power, they're going to vibrate at a deeper level. So the first step is to get your mind very clear by creating a very clear and specific intention. Be careful what you ask for, because if you don't even think about it properly, you could be asking for what you don't want. So if you make your intention, your affirmation very, very simple, it's hard to mess it up. So to do that, you always, always, always start with I am. I am a phenomenal woman. The reason you start with I am is not just because it affirms the power of you and the power of ownership, but because the words I am are literal translations of the breath. The word I am translates from the original Sanskrit, Soham Hamsa. Soham Hamsa is the original sound of the breath. The sound of the breath is your spirit. So by saying I am, you're actually breathing that inhale and exhale of ownership, of energy, of the complete vibration of energy. Even saying it, I am, it's got a very breathy energy. There's only one consonant, and that consonant is soft. I am. The rest is very open and vibrational. Then you want to only use 3 to 7 words. The shorter your intention, the more powerful. You also need to use the present tense only, because if you speak in the future, it's always not quite in your reach. And if you speak in the past, it's always way gone past. So you want to speak in the present tense, but that also means that you have to speak in the present tense of something you believe as it is now. So if you're going to say, I am a phenomenal woman, you have to be able to draw up from your chakras, from your vibration inside yourself, remember and feel aspects of yourself that are phenomenal. So when I say that phrase, I think about every woman that came before me in my ancestry and all the powerful energy that they brought to me to create me. I think about all the history of my life and all the phenomenal things I have done. And there are those things in there. And I still own that. So I am a phenomenal woman. You got to choose your words very wisely, choosing sounds and letters that match what it is you're trying to say. Phenomenal, feminine, that vibration of the sound. If you choose hard words, hard sounds, you're going to have a hard word and a hard energy. If you choose soft words and soft sounds, you're going to have soft energy. So choose your words very carefully. And that means you can only choose a few words, because the fewer you choose, the easier it is to figure out. The second step is your body action. So you've got your intention now, I am, and 1, 2, 3 words. And then you want to have a body action. You want to take it out of just spinning around in your head, and you want to put it into action. Physically make it do something with your posture, your mechanics, and your movement. This woman, Amy Cuddy, did a whole research study on that, about how when you stand in a power position, you actually start to feel that powerful in your body. And you start to then present that powerful energy to the world outside. You can fake it by doing a physical action. You can trick your brain into thinking and feeling you are that way. So if you add the intention with a physical action that matches that intention, you can claim that. So by holding yourself in a Wonder Woman position and then saying, I'm a phenomenal woman, you're double dosing on the medicine of an affirmation practice. So in order to do that, though, you have to be very keenly aware of your body and how your body works. So you have to connect your mind and your body by choosing an intention that physically can be manifested into an action that matches what it is you're thinking. And you own that by saying, I am, and then you physically feel it by doing something that matches it. And the key is you repeat it over and over and over again. You make it part of your integrated everyday life. It's not something you just do in the morning and just do at night for 30 minutes practice here and 30 minutes there. You do it many, 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 many times all day long. And then the third step is you breathe. You take that introverted mind with that highly sensitive body, doing those two things together, and then the breath is what changes the hormones. The breath is what changes the chemistry and the hormones of what's going on in your body. So it takes that thought and that action and makes it into how your body actually feels when you link a breath to it. Because breathing is the fastest way to change your system, no matter what. Every time you change something by changing your breath. You change your chemistry, you change your body hormones, and you change your brain chemistry, your feelings, your perspective, and how your body functions, even your digestive system, even your excretory system, even your sexual function. All of those things can be changed by breath. So if you take a thought, link it to a physical action, and make it into an actual physical, mindful, intentional breathing prayer, you're connecting to spirit and you're becoming fully present in your everyday life because you're doing it many, many, many times a day. This is the biggest thing. You need to repeat, repeat, repeat. What we are, what we repeatedly do. Excellence then is not an act, but a habit. I think the pandemic has forced us as energy sensitive souls to step up and to repeat what we've been knowing in ourselves, but to repeat it on an everyday life, to integrate it into every single action we do all day long. And that will change the world on a bigger plane. How are we doing out there? What do you think of that last piece? 3 steps. Simple, but not simple. Any thoughts?
Simple, but not simple.
It's so easy. Just think, do, and breathe. But doing that over and over and over and over and over and over all day long, having to remind yourself and remind yourself and remind yourself. What I can promise is that when you do remind yourself and you keep doing it until it becomes normal habit, everything changes in really big, huge ways. It's so subtle and so profound.
So in terms of the intention that you said, this intention has to really sort of be something that really over encompasses like everything that you want to kind of change, because it wouldn't be like multiple intentions that you have a separate movement for. It will just be that one really big intention that's going to have like the most impact over you that you kind of focus on, right?
Yes, and yes. It doesn't have to be just one. You could do many different little ones too. And I'm going to show you in a little bit 3 smaller ones. I'll call them like first aid band-aids. And if you do those first aid band-aids, they're going to have a much more profound impact than you realize, because they're not just going to be little band-aid approaches. They're actually going to make systemic changes. But if you also create a big, huge, one short 3-sentence affirmation and you link that to everything, it's going to have an overall global change as well.
Okay.
But what I'm going to show you now is 3 little ones that you can do to treat. It's kind of like 3 little band-aids that you can put on this situation when it's happening to you. And if you do it when you don't need it, so that you do it when you do need it, your body will then naturally do it. Yeah. So here they are. First aid. This is short-term treatment for the sensitive soul. So a lot of the things you mentioned, like as a sensitive soul, our brains are overthinking. As a sensitive soul, we have all this overstimulation, like you said, Cheyenne, going out into the malls. And as sensitive souls, we absorb all these toxic energies, energy vampires, and so forth. So I'm going to give you one mind, body, spirit, Mosey method exercise to treat each of these three. The first one is it's a chakra hack. How do you get those chakras to calm themselves so that your brain, the crown chakra and third eye chakra, aren't overdoing themselves? First, the very simple intention, I am calm. The reason I chose the word calm is because it starts with the hard C, which is what you're feeling when you're overthinking. That overthinking is like a lot of C's going over and over and over again in your head, a lot of twisty, turvy thoughts. But then that hard C, ka, becomes om. It's a long, slowing down of that ka sound, calm. So I've chosen those sounds very carefully. And that word, which means calm, which brings about the emotion of the ripples of a pond smoothing. So if you say in your mind or out loud, I'm calm, and then the physical action you do is to ground your feet and get your head upside down. This is common sense, and it's actually things we do without even thinking about it. Say we're all stressed out, and then we drop our heads in our hands and we shake our heads. Oh my gosh. In doing that, we're actually getting the thoughts out of our heads. By getting your head upside down, the thoughts cannot stay in there when your body is upside down, when your head is below your heart. So if you're out in the world and you're overthinking and you're not able to process information, you plant your feet, you get your head upside down, you think, I am calm. And at the calm, exhale slowly through your nose. Everything will slow down. I cannot see you guys, so I wonder how you're responding to all of this. Mary Jo's laughing.
I'm laughing because I can see I'm running a meeting and it gets tense, so I'm just going to stand up and do this. No, I'm just kind of, that part just kind of made me think. Yeah.
In a meeting, you can't possibly like turn yourself upside down, but you can say, hey, everyone, let's take a pause. And in that pause, you take that moment. And that moment doesn't have to be more than 2 breaths. But if your brain's overgoing and you take that moment for 2 breaths to calm it with I am calm and getting your head upside down, and then you come back, you'll be much better. And if you just say, or even just Zoom is awesome for that. You can turn off your camera and keep talking. Turn yourself upside down and say, okay, give me a second. I'm calm. Okay, here we go. It will, if you do this many, many, many times, it will become your new normal. That your brain will slow down. Especially if you do this when you don't need it. Then when you do need it, you won't need to do it. Does that make sense? So the best way to calm your overthinking is to say, I'm calm, get your head below your heart, and exhale through your nose. To calm that overstimulation, when you go to the mall, you go out to public places and there's too much input coming in and there's too much overwhelming you, you say, I am okay. And as you say, okay, you stomp each foot. Okay. And you think of your feet grounding into the ground. I am okay. That stomping of the feet stimulates the nerve endings on the bottom of your feet and send that vibration all the way up through all your nerves to your crown. And that okay is the stability of Mother Earth underneath you. At the same time, you're digging in your heels, and your heels are symbolic of being committed, being solid, being stable. And when other things are trying to knock you off your ground, digging in your heels and stomping your feet will say, I am okay in my ground. And that external stuff can't knock me off. And as you do that, if you do long, slow, deep, diaphragmatic breath with the okay, inhale O, exhale K, that okay, that long sound with just, again, that hard K, but this time it's bent in the middle. Calm is saying where you're starting at and what you want to go to. But here you're saying the stimulation's still there. The K, that hard sound, is right there in the middle, but it's surrounded by a bubble of beautiful sounds. O, A. It's surrounded by that bubble. So you've got that bubble of protection in the O and the A, holding in the sharpness of the K. The stimulation's still there, but you're bubbled, you're protected by it. Make sense? You with me still? The next one, the last one I'll give you, chakra hack number 3, is how to cleanse toxic energy. When you come up against people in your world that, oh, he's angry or she's frustrated, or that energy of that whole room is just really chaotic and there's no it's all disorganization and the world isn't functioning, and you absorb that energy because you're an empath and you need to let it go, this is how you do that. I am letting go. Letting is like holding your hands and opening them up. Letting is allowing. And that ing sound is lingering. You letting your, it's not just a now type thing, it's an ongoing. I'm always letting go. It comes through me. And then that go is, it goes away. It falls out. And it gives that action of almost pushing it out of you, just like the word go. That go, oh, go. Gut is a pushing sound that comes out of your mouth. Go. So then you add that to either opening your hands, letting go, or shaking things off, letting it go like a dog shakes off, or washing it off. So you can open your hands as you let go, you can shake it off, or you can physically use water to wash things off. If every single empath in the world would do this intention with this breath while washing their hands every single time they got in contact with water, the world would be a better place. I am letting go. I'm letting go. I'm letting go. If every single person in the whole world did this every single time they were washing their hands, washing their body, washing their vegetables, washing their dogs, washing their dishes, washing anything, they're letting go, we'd be a whole softer world with a lot less control issues. We need to integrate it into our everyday life. We need to make it, this is our normal habit. Every single thing we do is an intentional prayer. It's so simple and so challenging at the same time. I can't tell you how many clients I've worked with where I say, it's so important you do this 20 times a day or more. And they come back to me and I say, so how much did you do it? Oh, I forgot. It doesn't work unless you do it. But if you do it every single day, many times a day, your world, the world of the people around you, the world of the environment that you're engaging in, it all changes. All of it on massive levels. Any thoughts, any insights anyone want to share?
Thank you. This is
I'm excited
oh,
to try.
Go ahead, Mary Jo, and then Joe. Mary Jo, and then Joe.
thank you. This is, I mean, just what you've pointed out and what you're also pointing out about the phrases, the verbalization and kind of the linguistics of it really are helpful. And to me, it's like some real nice little tidbits that can be expanded.
Yes. So many people create these affirmations and they're complex. They're like 7, 8 words or big long phrases. And there's too much information there for us to process and for our brains to actually embody. And if they're too complex, you can't find a physical action to match with it. And then it doesn't have as much power. Joe, you had a thought.
I was just going to say, I'm excited to try.
Yeah. It's really cool when you do it, it works. But it has to be so consistent and so practiced. Otherwise, it doesn't work. So then let me move on, because we talked about the 3 simple life hacks that are like Band-Aids. This is the first aid. And you have to repeat, repeat, repeat. But then how do you heal long-term on a deep level? And really that goes to the bigger chakra system. If you apply a specific action, a specific Mosey method exercise, one by one to each of the chakras that's personalized to you and what you've been going through in terms of each of these exercises, then you will recalibrate and re-exercise each of your chakras and how it functions. So if you apply a Mosey method exercise for safety and freedom using a specific affirmation that's guided towards what you are needing to heal in your root chakra, in what you need to understand and learn in how your root chakra is recalibrating itself and reorganizing itself because of the pandemic. If you do that for 2 weeks and you do that exercise so intently that you're doing it 20, 30, 40 times a day for 2 weeks, and then you add to that the next level one, the sacral chakra. They build like building blocks. And so Cheyenne, you were asking, you need a big intention, just one, or do you need all these little ones? And what I'm saying is eventually you'll get an affirmation that is 7 words long. I am safe, free, strong, open, honest, intuitive, and connected. Those are just general words relating to each chakra. But what if you had a personalized word for each chakra that's working on your specific chakra and what your specific chakra needs in how it's functioning? Can you guys see the screen? You're not being able to see? Your screen sharing is paused. Why is it paused? That's weird. Thanks for pointing that out, Diana. I'll try it again. Resume share. Can you see it?
No,
Oh, weird.
it's just spinning and saying has started screen sharing and isn't moving beyond that.
It says it's paused and I can't get it to unpause.
Is there a large image on that slide?
There's a bunch of words. No, it's not a large image that's taking its time to load. So let me try this. I'm going to try to close out the slideshow and start it again. And then see if this share will work this time. Nope. because it's just telling me the screen share is paused. Let me try one more time. Otherwise, I'll just move on without the screen, without the share. Were you able to see it when I was talking about the chakras?
The last I saw was the where you did the shake and wash.
Okay. Nope, it's not working. So I guess I just get to see your happy faces. And I will have to, what I will do, and I usually do this anyway, is I'll send you the, when I add the, when I send you the replay link, I will also send the PowerPoint so that you can see both. So I just got to set up my screen so that I can see the screen myself. Go away. Okay. So the way to work with, let me go back, get myself back in place. Deep healing on the long term for your sensitive soul is to work through each of the chakras and to get an understanding of where your chakras are at, where your energetic nervous system is, and how you need to rework with it based on the new normals of the pandemic world, the post-pandemic world. And so to do that, what I would suggest, and this is what people go through with my sacred mentorship, and Diana's been through it, so maybe I'll call on her later to talk about her experience. The first thing you need to do is learn how your sensitive soul developed in your childhood and in how your chakras each developed over time. What are their natural, normal go-tos from your past and your history, both from your childhood and your ancestry? How are your chakras developed? And then to look at that in terms of how they've been changed by the pandemic and how they've been changed by things that have happened in your growing life. So to get a really good picture of what your chakras are like and how they've functioned and how they served you, but also how you need to readjust them and how they've kept you in consistent patterns that you might want to change. So getting a really good picture of your chakra energies and identifying the habits and patterns that have worked for you and that haven't, and what your strengths and your assets are as well. That works in working with knowing where to go. And then personalizing one by one a Mosey method exercise, as well as layers of other types of healing, such as chakra, shamanic rituals or healing prayers or energy healings or deeper meditations and so forth, to really retune and respin your chakras into a different function. And that's what I take you through when you go through the sacred mentorship with me in a one-on-one program, is you get a very detailed and personalized, here's where your chakras are. And then one by one, I'll walk you through 2 weeks at a time. We'll work on each of the 7 major chakras and learn how it functions, what we're trying to change it to, the Mosey method exercise to change it to that, and other things like shaman rituals and yoga practices and exercise ways to engage in your everyday world that will shift that for you. As a result, what happens, and Diana can possibly explain to this a little bit, is you end up walking away with not just the chakra changed or the little thing like I can manage my emotions in public places now. You walk away with a whole new perspective on life. You improve your confidence, your self-esteem, your self-worth, because you're feeling inside yourself and trusting yourself better. You walk away with a better understanding of how your body functions because you're paying attention to it and you're using your brain and your body together, and your nerves are all functioning in brain and body and breath connectedness. You will break old patterns that you didn't even know you had, or patterns that you couldn't get out of, because you're doing these brain shifts on a subconscious and energetic level. And you'll integrate your spiritual practice into an everyday life. It becomes, this is everything. Everything in your life is spirituality. It's not just your meditation in the morning or your yoga practice in the evening or your other practices of going to church and so forth. It becomes every single thing of your life. And that really enhances everything you do. And your overthinking and your second guessing goes away because you're trusting your intuition, and you're gaining that clarity and focus by bringing things to the very specific with those affirmations. As a result, you walk away with a better relationship with your body, a better appreciation of your body and feeling good in your own skin, a better understanding of your mind and how it functions, and an ability to actually get your brain to work for you, and an overall appreciation of the world as a whole. So what I suggest and what I give to all my clients who come to these classes and these workshops is I offer you a free 45-minute chakra assessment. It's a very simple conversation where I get a general idea of what your chakras are looking like on a big scale perspective. And then I point out to you which ones are probably being most impacted by the pandemic or what's going on in your life. And then I would give you a specific treatment plan of, if we went through the Sacred Mentorship program step by step, here's how I would help you and what we would do to figure out your chakras and to work with them specifically. So that's an offer that I give to anyone as a first time meeting with me, as a 45-minute free chakra assessment. And then if you end up signing up for the Sacred Mentorship, you get a really deep, in-depth 4 to 5 hour chakra reading where we dive into every single chakra in very specific ways to understand how yours are functioning. But in order to do that deep healing on a deep level, you really do have to dig into, where did you come from? How did you function? How are things changing now? And how are things not working now, to figure out where we need to go and what Mosey method affirmations and actions we need to take for you. So that's it. That's all I got. Any questions? Diana, can I call on you for a second? Can you make your face pictured again and talk to people about your experience in the program? There she is.
Yeah, there I am. Hey, I exist.
Diana just finished the 6 months with me last month. So talk about a little bit about what you experienced and how your world has changed.
In a nutshell, it's changed drastically for the better. So I think initially I went into it learning how to attract, how to receive, and maintain abundance. That was the primary goal. I think when we first started, I was going through a lot of pain. I had hurt my hip a couple of years ago, and I was finishing up physical therapy because traditional Western practices weren't working for me. And finally, I found a really good doctor that said, okay, forget the medicines, let's not even talk surgery. Let's try this. And it worked. But having to go through the journey and looking at each chakra, in detail and step by step, and how my past has affected my present and can affect my future, and what choices I can make and what I can choose to do, it's just opened up a whole new world. So I do feel a lot more confident. I embrace what's unique about me. I am a phenomenal woman. I can say I am worthy of all abundance that I can receive and share. And even though, as I stated earlier, one of the triggers at the beginning of Terry's session is, when I was younger, I was bullied a lot. I was misunderstood because I was overly sensitive as a child, but now I see that as a wonderful gift. And it's just a matter of how to learn to control that sensitivity in a public area. Now, when I go to work, if I feel something triggered, I can run to the bathroom or a conference room really quick and do these exercises, do the Mosey method. And then I'm grounded again, and then I can be in control. So definitely these last 6 months just has been incredible. I can't
Thank you,
recommend it
Diana.
highly enough.
Thank you, Diana. Thanks for sharing. It's always a pleasure to me because we get to know each other on a very deep level as well. It's like, it's not just me teaching Diana, it becomes this friendship and this soul level connection because we understand each other on that deep level of being the 0.5 of 1% of the population. So, any other thoughts, questions, insights?
So I take it you will send that out, and then you'll send out if we wanted to continue what we would do, et cetera.
Yes, tomorrow sometime you'll get an email from me. It'll have a link to the replay for this whole video. It'll have the slide presentation so you can go through each of the slides and especially the ones we missed at the end. And I'll have a link in that to that free 45-minute chakra assessment. And as a result of that 45-minute chakra assessment, I can walk you through, here's the details of the program, the 6 months, what you do in all those 6 months, and how much it costs and how it works.
Sounds good.
So thank you so much. Thanks all for attending. It's my honor to know you. I love seeing all the familiar faces. And I'll probably do another workshop on a different topic, but very similar in a month or two. So maybe I'll see you again then. Namaste.